Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, all right. Let me stop the theme music real quick. Welcome everybody. Happy Thanksgiving, an early Thanksgiving to all of you out there. I don't think I have any international people, so this is only for Americans. So good, Americans. Happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully, you will be with family, staying COVID free, staying safe. Personally, we're going to just kind of keep things small, low key here, which is a big change from what we normally do, because we honestly have a lot of people coming through. In the past, like last year, it was a couple weeks after my mom was killed, but we had like 25, 30 people here at the house for Thanksgiving. The year before that, it was roughly a similar number, but just more mixed family. My wife's family, my family. It was a good time. So having a smaller, more intimate Thanksgiving is to stay safe and to kind of keep things kind of low key and low pressure. Nice change of pace. My wife is actually ordering food, but yeah, that's interesting. We'll see how that goes. But anyways, welcome everybody. Hopefully, you guys are taking advantage of this holiday season because, as I said before, a lot of people are looking to buy things, so they're going to need extra cash so they can have their Christmas gifts and all that. And if they have some asset laying around, namely some vacant land in a different state or a different county, they're going to want to sell it. So this is the best time to really get in there. I mean, there's always a good time to do it, but this is a really good time because again, more people are looking to generate extra cash. And if you can flash some money in their face, like, hey, here's an extra 500 bucks, 300 bucks, 400 bucks, 1,000 bucks, whatever it is to do what you want, and you get it within a couple of days, that's kind of hard for people to actually turn down. On the other side, once you have the property in your possession and you're selling it, now you can kind of angle it, hey, make this holiday season the season that you become a property owner or a landowner, or increase your square footage or your property or your first piece of investment or whatever it is. So now it works on both ways where the holiday is going to help you move property. It's going to move one way or the other. Either you're a part of it or you're not. Hopefully, because you're in this group, you are a part of it. So that's what I would like to see. Now, let's talk about first things first. Hold on. What do I got over here on my whiteboard? Ah, yes, 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 yes. The title of this go live. So I have a property that I actually just bought, and I sent the check out to the owner yesterday. He'll probably get it by tomorrow. This property, I find out, is actually two of them, and it is in an area where the HOA is literally $700 per year. That is a lot of money just for the HOA. Now, usually I avoid any area that has an HOA. Well, that's what I was doing before because I didn't want to deal with it, and I always thought, man, it's too hard to sell property as it is. Why would I get something that's going to be even more difficult to sell because of the high HOA fees or whatever it is? But I actually sold a property in that had the HOA wasn't very high at all. It was like 75 bucks a year or something. And it was my first time actually dealing with an HOA, and it was actually pretty easy. What I've learned is that when you have a property that is kind of free, you can do what you want, you're going to attract a different type of buyer. And normally those buyers are going to ask you questions like, hey, can I put a trailer on it or a mobile home or whatever it is? Um, Usually those buyers are, lower income buyers or whatever. And that's that. And there's plenty of people who buy. And that's what I was used to dealing with. So foolishly, I thought, oh, well, if that's what everybody is, no one's going to want to pay for a property where they can't put the mobile home or a trailer, or it's going to be very expensive to afford. Until I actually sold a property in an area that's kind of nice. And so now you're dealing with people like, hey, I want to build a house. What are the restrictions? What's the neighborhood like? What are the amenities of this HOA? Things of that nature. So I'm like, okay, maybe because the HOA is not that expensive, we'll see. Talking to my mentor, I asked like, hey, there's a property I can get. The HOA is kind of expensive. At the time, I thought it was like 200 something bucks, 275. He's like, well, try one, see what it's like. He goes, I have another student that he sold a bunch that had a $300 HOA. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. So in this particular area, there's actually, it seems to be like a giant HOA, and I keep saying HOA in case if you don't know, an HOA stands for Home Owners Association. Sometimes they're called POAs for Property Owners Association, and they are basically like a group of people of owners in the area that kind of say these are the rules. You can't do. Here are the things that you're allowed to do, things that you're not allowed to do. So If you're going to have a home, it has to be built a certain way. It has to look a certain way. It has to be a certain size. You have to use a certain type of material, etc. Why is that? Well, they're trying to protect their investment. They're trying to protect like the area, because if three houses look really good and then this fourth house comes in and somebody just puts like a crappy mobile home on it, well, now all of their values go down. It attracts a certain type of person that maybe they don't want in their neighborhood. And that's a slippery slope in my opinion, but hey, I don't own a HOA. I don't live in a HOA, so I don't know what it's like. But I can understand, look, if you're going to pay a lot of money for a home and you want to make sure that your living experience is a consistent one and everything looks nice, I can understand the appeal on that level, making sure that only people who are serious about taking care of their property move in your area. But with that said, I've never had to deal with a property that has such a high HOA, $700. It's actually like 690 something. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous. Like, shit, what if I can't get it sold? What do I do? And I thought about it. I'm like, $600 is not a lot of money, especially when you realize I'm buying this property, each one for $250. So even if I got to pay a little HOA for both, I'm in, I don't know what, $1,000, $1,100 is nothing. I say 1,100 because that the yearly property tax is about $90. So it's really nothing. And then when I think about it that way, then I'm like, all right, let me actually be calm about this and look at my numbers. So that's the next thing we'll go into. Now I'll go more into the HOA thing. Early on, you're not going to know how much you can sell a property for. You have an idea. So if you go back to the training I did for the escape velocity strategy, you'll get an idea of how much others are selling property for in that same area, like on popular sites like Zillow and Craigslist and things like that. But you don't really know until you actually get yourself out there. And once you're out there, then you get a better idea. And in the beginning, people are going to kind of nibble. They're going to kind of look at your posts. They're going to do certain things. They're going to save it. You know, like on Zillow, you can save a post, but they're not going to like be calling you like feverishly, hey, I need to buy this property right now. So you got to, you're just kind of feeling it out. And then maybe after a week or so, you don't really get any calls. Maybe you lower the price a bit, right? Just to see, okay, you're going to try to find that sweet spot. But after your first sale, you have an idea of what you can sell it for because you just did it. Not from speculation, it's from actual reality. So now you actually understand how much you can actually buy property for and be profitable. So that might mean you might spend a little bit more to buy the property, but hey, I just sold a property for, let's just say $2,500. I know if I buy a property for $1,500, yes, a lot more than I want to pay, but I'm still going to make at least, $800 to $1,000 on this deal. And I know there's other people who didn't buy who want to buy the property I had previously. So now I already have a buyer's list. The buyer's list may be like 3-4 people strong, but that's all you need to kind of get started. Because once people start to get the idea of like, hey, I'm actually going to buy a property, or in my story, sell a property, they're going to be excited. And then, if they miss out, that eats at them. But anyways, going back to it, I'm in the property I'll be in it when I pay everything about $1,000, $1,100 for each. This is property. Now, the reason why I went for this is because it's in a premium area. This particular HOA is huge. So it has 4 north, south, east, and west. Well, the west is like the premium property. That's why the HOA is so expensive. I did a little Google search on it, and I was going around. There's a golf course right next to it, a really nice golf course, a really nice public pool. All the lawns are manicured. The roads are nice and paved. They look brand new, even though it's not brand new. The HOA website is fancy and posh. It's like, it's just, it just screams like high quality. I'm not used to dealing with stuff like this. I'm used to dealing with cheap stuff that people seemingly don't want. But now I'm dealing with something that's going to be expensive. The problem is the other areas. So west is the premium part. The north, south, and east, not as premium. Not bad, but not as premium. When you're selling it, people don't know the difference unless you got to really specify, hey, I'm in the west section. This is the special area. And even then, if you're not in the area, you don't really know that. So got me a little nervous, but I'm excited because it's how I get to use a different type of marketing to kind of get that out there. And I have a different type of client that I'll have in mind that I'm going to work with. But the point is, your numbers, you can spend a little bit more. Now, The last thing I'm gonna say about this is the reason why I went for this is because as I said, I was able to negotiate it down for 250 bucks. Every time you're on the phone with somebody and they're looking to sell, always, always, always negotiate down. Sure, sometimes you might have to go a little higher than what you want to spend, but negotiate down. Now, here are the things that you can use to actually negotiate down. One, if they owe any back taxes, right? Sometimes that, most, that's the number one thing. Two, is there a way to get to the road easily? Maybe there was a road and now the road has been covered up, overgrown with grass or whatever. Three, maybe you can say, hey, there's no way to get water or power in this lot. I can't pay you as much. Even though you might have already known that, sometimes putting that negative seed in their mind and remind them, like, look, you don't have a gold mine here. Your property isn't that valuable. Don't be stingy. Sometimes that would do the case. Sometimes you can use other things like, look, I just saw another property that just got sold for this amount. Now you can try to sell me, why would you not sell it to me for the same amount that I can get it from somebody else all day long? Or what I've also done successfully, look, I buy these lots for $400 or $500 a piece. That's why I offered it to you. If you don't want it, that's fine, but I'll buy somebody else's lot and you'll be stuck with yours. Sometimes that's a more of a longer term play where now they're thinking about it over the next couple of weeks, and then when you actually contact them again, it's like, hey, Mr. Smith, or Mrs. Smith, whatever, you still, last time we talked, you were kind of interested in selling, but you want a certain price. Are you willing to negotiate now? And at that point, they'll be willing after they sat with it for a while, realizing, yeah, no one else is actually offering me any money. No one's really following up with me, anything like that. So you have that. But the point is, you want to negotiate down every single time. Never, ever, ever be satisfied. And a lot of times what happens is this. Just like with my deal where I'm like, hey, I'm looking to buy your lot. First I said the offer was $750 per lot. And then when we were talking, I said $500 per lot because you owe these taxes and these HOA fees. And then after doing my real research when we made the deal, I'm like, oh, you owe too much. I'm either not going to do the deal or I'll give you $250. Now, why this works is because as we're talking and everything, they're like, oh yeah, they feel like, yeah, I can get some money. I'm excited. I go off. I do my due diligence. I don't talk to them for a day or two. I come back like, hey, I found some things I don't like. Now, during that day or two, they got accustomed to the idea of selling their property. They're going to sell it because they either want the money or they just don't want the headache anymore. And once they start to get comfortable with the idea of like, good, I'm going to get some money or I'm going to get rid of this headache or both, it's going to be hard to walk away from that when I come back. Like, yeah, you know what? I don't want it no more. Now, if I say I don't want it for the price and I'm willing to, it's not a big deal if we can negotiate, they're going to be a lot more willing to negotiate. Because again, they got used to the idea of getting rid of this. This has been a thorn in their side for a long time, and they're finally able to be free of it, and they don't have to do any work because I'm doing all the work. But when I take that away, they're like, oh, hold on, where you going? Hey, let's talk about it. Let's not be hasty. And once you do that, I'm not gonna say they're putty in your hands or anything like that, but that's what it takes because now you're starting to actually play at their heartstrings a little bit. You're actually getting that their, I don't know. It's kind of like you're about to buy something and you see somebody else trying to buy it and it's the last one and you're trying to fight over it and now you're willing to overpay for something that you may not have wanted that much in the first place. It's just you don't want someone else to have it. Well, it's kind of that same principle where instead of somebody else competing, it's like they had something and now you're taking it away. So even though they didn't have money in their hand, they kind of felt that money in their hand. Even though you didn't really take care of the problem yet, they felt that the problem is going to be solved. And now that you're taking that away, they're like, no, I got to have it. So you can always use that to negotiate down. And that's the beautiful thing. When you do negotiate down, you can sell it for pretty much any price that you need to get rid of it. Now, most times you'll be able to sell the property for a good price. But let's just say you did like I did when I told you about that Florida property I bought, where it's like a big old drainage ditch, that was gouged into the land and all that. Because I negotiated down, I was able to sell for it $800 and I still made money out of the deal. Now, I would not want to sell for $800 any other time, but besides, like, I got to get rid of this thing ASAP. Now, that brings me to a side note. There's something called wholesaling in this industry, where basically I, an investor, will sell to you as an investor. So let's say I bought the property for 200, I'll sell it to you for 400, and in theory, you can sell it for like 800, 1200, whatever, right? So there's still meat on the bone for you. I've noticed people who have a lot of wholesale property, they either do this as a living, this is their only thing, and that's great, right? But the ones who don't do this just as, as their business model, the ones who normally sell to consumer, but now they're looking to wholesale. Well, why do you think they're doing it? Because nobody is buying their property. Why isn't people buying? Maybe they're asking for too much. Maybe they're advertising in places that aren't, popular, whatever it is. But the point is they're looking to dump something they don't know what to do with. So you can look at it one of two ways. Their loss can be your gain, or they have something that it will be a big headache for you. I've dealt with both. So for example, there was if you go back to the training and I showed you guys that place in New Mexico where all those properties were dirt cheap, somebody tried to sell me property in that area. I didn't know that, so what I did was before I agreed to do a deal, I was like, hey, let me check this area out, did a little research, and I put up an ad, and as if I actually did have the property. Crickets, nothing, no views, no one person called, it was nothing. So I learned right away, like, hey, these people are selling it because they can't get a consumer to buy it. So yeah. Anyways, enough of that. Yeah, the final thing I want to talk about. I'm jumping topics here because I kind of gotta go. I also told you about when I was worried about not having enough sales for the month. I had to actually dig into my customer list. Well, what you need to do is actually have a good follow-up sequence. This kind of relates to how you can sell too, because sometimes you got to stay on top of people who have to do research or find certain paperwork when they're trying to sell to you. But a good follow-up sequence will go like this. They contact you because they want to buy your property. And you're like, hey, did you check it out? Did you go see it? So the first thing I do you often put up an ad before purchasing? I got a question real quick. So do I often put up an ad before purchasing? Sometimes I do. When I'm in an area that I'm unfamiliar with, I will put up an ad before purchasing, just to kind of test the waters. And again, sometimes the ads take a little bit to actually collect some steam. So like by the time I'm really ready, that I can actually hit the ground running because the ad is already out there working. I'm getting interest. I'm getting an idea of what prices work, what prices don't work. So yeah, that's a great question. But getting back to it, when I'm actually out there doing my thing, people are contacting me and they're like, hey, is the property available? The first thing I say is, have you seen the property yet? Because a lot of people will contact you and be like, hey, I want this property. And I don't know if they're serious until they actually went out and tried to see it. Now, a lot of times they don't think about like, oh shit, yeah, I should go see it. And they're like, all right, well, I can go this weekend. I'm like, great. Well, the property is first come, first serve. So whoever pays me first is going to get it. I can't hold it for anybody. Make sure you don't hold it for nobody because people say they're going to buy and they don't do shit all the time. But once they go, I will actually have to go and put a note like, okay, this person at this number called me on this day. They said they're going to go visit the property on Saturday. I'm going to make sure I follow up with them on Saturday night or Sunday morning or something like that. Just sometime after they have a chance to go see it. And when I follow up with them, I'm like, hey, I don't just say, hey, did you see it? I say, I always am like, so, hey, what'd you think of the property when you checked it out? And, they'll say, oh, I didn't get a chance to see it or this and that. When I hear that, I'm like, all right, they're not that serious. Now, do I write them off? No, don't write them off at all. But I realize they're more of a slower drip type of person. So I'll have to keep feeding them information. Maybe I'll give them the website. Maybe I'll like, hey, I thought this would be interesting to you. Just something just to keep them on the hook. Because that way they get to understand me, know, like, and trust me a little bit. That's not as common these days. Most days I don't have to do that. But when those who have seen it, once they see it, they're very interested. Even if they don't buy, they're pretty interested unless they saw something that was totally terrible that made the whole thing like just, we can't do it, and that's cool too. You don't want people like on the hook that aren't going to buy. But again, even though they're interested, it doesn't mean that they're ready emotionally to buy yet. So you have to follow up with them. Hey, so what do you think? Here's some, again, just like I do with the slow drip people, but I kind of do the same thing. And I also let them know like, hey, so-and-so is about to go, another person's about to go check out the lot. I don't know if you still want it or not, but just giving you a heads up so you have the right of first refusal since you're the one that contacted me first. And that often gets people to act because they're like, oh shit, somebody's going to take something away. Same psychology we talked about earlier with people who are, they in their mind, they're getting used to having the property in their hands and I'm taking it away. Same way they're getting, the person who sold me the property is getting used to getting that money in their hands and I'm taking it away. The same type of remorse happens. And if that same person ends up not buying because they acted too slow or they didn't have the money or whatever, I go, hey, Sorry, I sold the property to somebody else. Now FOMO kicks in. They're like, oh shit, I just missed out on something. It was a great price. They're like, are you gonna get any more? Like, I don't know. I'll see. I can let you know if I do, but that was a great deal and you missed it, right? Sometimes I'll twist the knife a little bit. And then when I do get one in, before I even advertise it, I'm like, hey, I got another one in the same area. Are you interested? You're gonna get a lot more people like, hell yes. What do I have to do to pay? Can I pay in installments? Can I do this and do that? And then you negotiate. Other times, um, that's usually it, unless they're no longer interested. Oh, one last thing. Once you have your ad up, whether it's on Zillow, Craigslist, or whatever, and you know you're gonna get more because you sent out a bunch of texts or letters or whatever, keep it up there. Keep the ad up. Don't put the ad down because you're gonna get more and more people even after you sold it. Hey, is it still available? I'm looking to buy. Now you're building up a buyers list. And again, once you say, hey, unfortunately that one just got sold last night, and I say that all the time, even though it's a lie, or I'll just say it just got sold. You just missed it. But I'm about to get another one in. Do you want me to let you know when it's in? I do that all the time. And that's how I build a good list because people are interested. Now, the only issue is since you don't have an actual property, unless you have one on the way, it's not like they can go view it and check it out to actually get them more emotionally invested. But you still have a list of people that once you contact them, they'll be more likely like, oh yeah, I'm actually interested. And now you don't got to wait for people to come to you. You can go to them. You can make it happen. How do you keep all these peoples and follow-ups organized so you don't forget about them? Great question. I'm actually working through a couple different systems. Now, you can actually buy different software solutions, CRMs and whatnot. Um, if you have a giant enough like client base, a CRM will work to keep track of all these things. However, what I personally do, I started with spreadsheets. Actually, not even that. I take that back. The number I use for people to sell or to buy from me is my Google Voice number. So, I on my desktop, I have a Google, when people call, I can or text, I can see it right there on the desktop. I can copy and paste their number and their name. Then I can put that into a spreadsheet or a text file. And now I have a little database I use. It's all, it's all worth the same thing. And then I might put notes of the conversation, like, hey, they wanted this, but only couldn't afford that. Or they want to pay it off in installments. Or they're looking to buy quickly. Or whatever was discussed in the conversation. And I'll have my own notes like, yeah, I'm not sure if they're serious or not, blah, blah, blah. And then that's it. And then when I'm ready to go back, I got a whole list of numbers of people I can send to fire off a text like, hey, you still interested? Boom. It doesn't got to be anything complicated. Again, you can use a CRM, but it'll do the same thing. And the beauty of keeping it simple, at least early on, not only is it free, but like, let's say you're doing property in state A, right? And then you start getting property in state B. You don't have to mix the two. You don't have to do anything complicated to kind of keep things tracked. You can have a spreadsheet for state A and a spreadsheet for state B. You can also, same thing, ask for the email. Be like, hey, what's your email? I can let you know when the next one comes in. And then do an email list that way. And you can nurture your leads with, daily emails that are entertaining and informative. So if they're going to be doing land things, like go ahead and send them information about, I don't know, building a tiny home or RV living or, having your own farm or, having a recreational property or, they're going to do a lot of dirt bikes and things like that on their property. Send them links and shit for dirt bikes, like maintenance, repairs, tricks, tips, things like that. Stuff that they're interested in so they keep you front of mind. So, yeah, it's all basically you just got to let them know like, hey, I'm going to have more in. Or if you're serious, I can let you know. If you're not, it's all good. No judgment here. But yeah, I just won't, you'll have to hopefully catch me on the next time I have something that you can see that's available. And when you do that, you'll get people like, hey, is that available yet? I'm looking for that property. I'm excited to go check it out. During this go live, I have somebody ask about that. That's why I keep looking at my phone. Oh shit. So I got 2 offers on that property. Yeah, so I'll do a deal after this is done. But yeah, shit. Happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully this was informative. I know I was all over the place today. I didn't have my usual flow today. But hopefully you found some of this informative. Yeah, so go get that money. Whoa, that's loud. Go get that money because right now it's holiday season. People ready to spend. So with that, I'm going to leave you guys with a little music and I'm out. Peace.